You're listening to the Night Demon Network. Go to nightdemon.net/subscriber to unlock more exclusive content.
Hello and welcome to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. I'm your host Nesbit, and Empire's Fall, the song that started out as a tribute to Cleveland, then became a scathing critique of internet social media culture. It morphed into a song about space before settling on becoming a review of the record industry. So this song had a long, complicated past, but eventually evolved into what is, in my opinion, one of Night Demon's best songs. This is Empire's Fall Part 3. So Empire's Fall was the first of a series of singles released by Night Demon in 2020. With no warning and with no full album attached, they just kind of fell out of the blue, each with a unique B-side and cover art. So not only was the release unusual, they were also recorded in a bunch of different locations across the globe. And each one was engineered and mixed by different people. So we'll get into all these details eventually, but this single is no exception. So Empire's Fall was recorded in Ventura, California with producer Matt Hyde. And also involved were Michael Rosen, Josh Newell, and Brad Boatwright. So how exactly did this concept of using different people to produce come about? Here's the members of Night Demon, Dusty, Armand, and Jarvis.
For the recording of this song, we did do it at Armand's place, Captain's Quarters, right here in Ventura, California. And I don't know how, but Armand had reconnected with Matt Hyde, who had produced the From Satellite record.
I ended up being in a band called From Satellite, and it was a 2-guitar band, definitely more of a pop kind of rock thing. So we ended up hooking up with this label. Long story short, we had a record deal, we got a bunch of money, we went to make a record. We had only played like 4 or 5 shows before getting signed, so it was crazy. And we made a record, and we made that record with Matt Hyde. Great dude. A lot of good times together with that guy. So anyway, that band, that was like, this is it. This is the band, you know. We were going to fucking do it. We had the full-on thing behind us. We had the big manager. You know, this guy was going to he was going to work us. We were his baby band. And he was like, the album had just come out. This is 2004. You know, he'd had his established bands. He wanted this young new band, and we were the guys. Well, we were the guys until Green Day put out a little album called American Idiot, and everything fucking changed when that happened. The guy that ran our label was super busy with the biggest record of fucking, you know, of whatever that year, you know, so it kind of cursed us there for a little bit. It was hard. It was really hard, and we weren't getting the support, you know. We were promised everything, you know. All the shit was supposed to be done for us. At this point, the steam kind of ran out. I've known Matt Hyde for about, now we're looking on 25 years or so. I really enjoyed working with Matt because he's a big guitar guy and he had an insane collection of, guitars and amps and drums. I mean, everything. I mean, this guy, like, when we first recorded with him, from Satellite, I remember we were going to do demos up in Ojai at a studio in Ojai. That's before I had my studio here. And he literally had a frickin' box truck show up with all of his shit in there just to bring all his crap into this studio that we had for, I don't know, we were there for 2 days or something like that, 3 days, just to do demos. It was pretty incredible. So, after all that, I ended up working for him here and there, helping him out guitar teching during some of his sessions. The other cool thing, too, is that when we were doing that From Satellite record, he had just come off of doing the Slayer record, God Hates Us All. So he still had the little stickers on some of his rack gear, and they were both labeled. They still had the labels on them that said, one said Kerry and one said Jeff. So that was cool,
But Matt had worked with, he did the Slayer God Hates Us All record. I think he did the first No Doubt record. He was in Porno for Pyros, and he did that record. He did records for Strung Out, Deftones. I mean, you name it. He has a huge resume. What we did was we went to the NAMM show in Orange County.
January of 2019, I think it was.
We had met up with him there, and he wanted to reconnect with Armand, and we just kind of talked about recording. And so he was all about it, and he wanted to get involved. And so we hung out with him there, and that was really cool. I remember we were talking to him outside, and John Densmore from The Doors was playing on stage, which was pretty awesome on this outdoor stage. I mean, the NAMM show is just crazy. It's the who's who of rock musicians for an entire week. So there's definitely a lot to take in there. And the cool thing is that Matt came out, I think the following week. He actually wanted to come and hear us play. So, he really wanted to get involved from like a producer standpoint, because that's what he does. He's also a great, great recording engineer, but he's a producer. And, his job is to come in and help the record, is to help the songs progress. And so he wanted to do full-on pre-production with us, which was awesome.
And, he was he did a lot of rock and metal albums. So I thought, hey, we'd always done, I guess, the previous records were done with Roger. I did, the EP and all that. The band never kind of got the, experience with like a full-on producer kind of guy like I did with him.
So he came in and did that, and, kind of like he liked what he heard, and we ended up just saying, look, we just want to do one song, and let's set it up.
But I thought it would be cool to get, somebody fresh into the band, and I knew that the band was, I knew he was going to enjoy it because, we're a fucking kick-ass band, and I know he would appreciate that and all that. So we met, we talked about it. We initially talked about maybe doing a record together and all that, but the idea came where it was like, all right, well, let's get together and let's do one song. We have this song ready, pretty much, which was Empire's Fall. Let's get together, let's do that as like kind of a test, and see how we work together and whatever. So we decided, yeah, cool, I'll come up. And I was like, why don't you just come up to to my place in Ventura, so we don't have to worry about getting another studio, there was no money involved, didn't have to worry about any of that. He was like, yeah, whatever, I'll just come out, hang out, and do it. It'll be fun. So he did.
So he ended up coming back shortly after that. We had scheduled something. He brought a ton of equipment here.
And he came out here. He brought a shit ton of gear with him, which was awesome. Again, this time he brought it in his Prius. No box truck this time.
Matt brought a couple things in to add to the studio and to add to the recording.
And he actually had hired Bill Ward from Black Sabbath, his drum tech, to come and bring all these cymbals and to help Dusty out, and different snares and tunings they were working on. It was incredible. It was the first time that Dusty ever had a tech on stage or in the studio. And I know he really enjoyed just talking shop with that guy and having access to all these other things. So that really, really made something cool for the drums on this song.
And he also brought a friend, this guy who I guess is Bill Ward's drum tech. And he brought a few, I guess he owed him a favor, so he brought him out with him. He brought a few cool pieces that we ended up using on the drums, which are insane. Insane snare drum and this killer 24-inch ride that Dusty used on the kit.
Yeah, and I had a drum tech that Matt brought in. He was actually, I think, Bill Ward's drum tech, Bill Ward from Black Sabbath. And he brought in some cymbals and a snare because he knew what Matt would look for as far as the sound goes for the track. And I used like a big 26-inch ride and like 22-inch crash cymbals and I think like 15 or 16-inch hi-hats maybe, or 17-inch hi-hats. So everything was big. He did kind of like tune the kick drum a little bit, but from making drums over the years, I've really gotten a good ear for tuning, and I've gotten a lot better when it comes to tuning in the studio, and I know what we're looking for. It was something neat, and it was an experience, to say the least, and I went through a couple takes without any of the band, just playing the song, and Bill's tech, he was just kind of like, yeah, those parts sound good. Everything's, cut and dry, and you're doing what the song calls for. So, I already pretty much had the drums dialed in. I used this Ludwig kit that we have at the studio, 24-inch kick, 14-inch rack tom, 18-inch floor tom, and I think I used a 14x8 snare, and then all those big cymbals.
But we just spent one day recording the song. We didn't do any vocals that day. We just did the music, and it came out really cool. It was really fun working with him. He would tell us a lot, like, hey, to tune a lot before takes, which, I mean, yeah, we know how to stay in tune. We're recording veterans ourselves. But his attention to that detail was really cool, and really just wanting us to keep going. I think the thing was, on the producer end, he really couldn't add much because we were so set on this song. We had demoed it so many times. We were really set on every note that we wanted to play, even in the guitar solo, and exactly how we wanted the song to go, the structure and all that.
We had the song written and ready to roll. We pre-produced it ourselves, so there really wasn't much for him to come in and do except for kind of put his stamp on it by hitting the record button, really, His role was basically to just come in and record us. And if there was any kind of input that he had, he was going to put that in. But I don't know if we're like so prepared that there's really not much that people can say about our stuff. Even with working with Albini and Rasmussen, it's like they really didn't have a whole lot to say about what we were doing. I think that speaks volumes about the preparation that we kind of put into putting these songs together. We do a lot of revisions, and we really, beat the songs down until they're ready to roll.
There were things about it that were cool that, originally there were things about it that I didn't like. Now, does this band necessarily need a full-on producer? I don't know. I think we're at a point where we kind of know what we're doing to a point where, I've already learned all the tricks that a producer kind of would normally do, basic kind of stuff. We've all done records before. We all know how to get our tones. We all know how to tune our guitars, all this kind of shit, do vocal harmonies. My role in the band is I do a lot of producing by recording a lot of the stuff and, doing some production shit. So,
and we only had one day to record. So it's good that we were a fully prepared band in that sense. But I think to his dismay, I think he wanted to produce a little bit more. But, due to time constraints and stuff like that, I think this was definitely the right move because we started early in the morning and didn't finish till late at night. So, I mean, that was the time that we had. If we were there trying to try all these new ideas, it wouldn't have worked out in the time allotted. So that ended up being a really cool thing.
And so we knocked it out pretty quick, and it was cool. It was chill. Then we went down to his place in the valley and did the vocals. That's also where we brought in James Paul Luna from Holy Grail. He came by and did some of the backing vocals.
As far as the background vocals go, it's really just a gang vocal. I don't even know if I'd consider them background vocals. And all it is whoa, whoa, whoa. But, as a lifelong Misfits fan, I always thought that Night Demon needed to have some of that in our music. And it wasn't really until the first EP when we did Ritual with with that part at the end of in the pre-choruses of that song that we ever did anything like that. So we kind of brought it back for this, and it was a real hooky chorus, and it worked. But for that, James Paul Luna, the singer of Holy Grail, actually was the first to do those with me, and he came to Matt Hyde's house when I was doing the vocals. Matt Hyde had done the Holy Grail record, Riding the Void. And so they had a working history together, and it was really cool for those two guys to see each other because they hadn't seen each other in years. So that was really nice.
Hey, Shredders. I'm Luna, a.k.a. James Paul Luna. I'm a hard rock, heavy metal vocalist and songwriter, and I've sung and written with Holy Grail, My personal experiences with Night Demon, they could probably fill a whole interview, but I'll just keep it short and sweet and to the basic facts here. I remember like 2013-ish, Jarvis and the guys hit me up on Facebook and wanted to send me some demos of their music, and I got a package in the mail, and it was their first EP, 7-inch, self-released, and it just like looked so cool and like retro, like very like new album, and it had that sound, the classic new album sound, look, and feel, and it just like I got into it right away. It was so cool, and I just love like the follow through and positive energy Jarvis and the guys had, and this TCB, like DIY approach that him and the guys had, it just really pays tribute to that new album movement too, And it's really refreshing to see when like my metal brothers take their music careers seriously and treat it like a business and not like a weekend hobby, like a weekend warrior. I think we did a show at either like the 5-Star or Slide Bar together early on with Holy Grail. And then later we got an actual tour together in 2015, and it was just such a blast to tour with these guys, And Jarvis and I hit it off pretty well, just like kind of like singer bonding and just like classic metal, like nerding out, And then he asked like, my old band, like White Wizard, to get together. Well, I sang in like, I started that band and it was like very early on the first record, and he asked us to play Frost and Fire 2, 2016, and that was just so cool. Even though we had like a couple hiccups with a drummer that almost didn't make it to the show, and I don't know, they were on some kind of pills or something, and it was just, everything was a little bit like slower BPM, slower tempo than usual. But, you know, we got through it, and but it was awesome just to be there in that scene with all those cool bands. And yeah, I mean, in terms of 2019, that was when I got a chance to sing gang vocals on the Empire's Fall, and yeah, I came to sing on it just by a text, you know. Jarvis hit me up. He's like, "Hey man, what's up, Luna? You down to come lay down some vocals on a Night Demon track? We're over at Matt Hyde's." And I was like, "Yeah, of course, dude. Like, that sounds great." I mean, I've done a lot of recording and guest vocal work over at Matt's before, and he's a great friend and awesome producer. And so it was without a doubt, like, yeah, it's just, you know, down the road, 15 minutes from me. So yeah, we booked a day, and then as we got closer, it was like, oh no, like there's a schedule conflict. And they moved the day, and then I had another book, like session book the same day. So it almost didn't happen, but luckily I knocked out my gig first half of the day, and then I came over in the evening, and I think it was my first time formally meeting Armand too, who was there. And yeah, he was such a nice, cool guy, and just like the music was just pumping and awesome, just like good, like speedy Motorhead, Maiden stuff that I love, you know. And the production sounded rad, and yeah, it was just so cool to just like pop in there and like be a part of it. And Matt Hyde was just like guiding it along beautifully. And yeah, it was just in and out in like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. We were probably like shooting the shit, like and chatting more than anything, than actual doing gang vocals. And but yeah, it was just so cool. And I'm really happy how that track ended up turning out. And of course, Jarvis sent me one in the mail, like man of his word always. And yeah, I love these Night Demon guys, just solid, heavy metal, no BS, you know, just straight to the point, and so classic and kind of timeless.
We developed a relationship with Luna when we went on tour with Holy Grail. So, you know, we became good friends with Luna, and Jarvis has known Luna for a while and has worked with his bands with Frost and Fire, stuff like that. So Luna, you know, did us a solid and came in and did some stuff for us.
I ended up doing the vocals at his house in a little closet in his mixing studio. And I think he said once he heard the vocals, he wasn't interested in recording an album with us, I guess, or wasn't too interested in the band. I guess he didn't like the way I sang. And, you know, I mean, that's fine. Like, you know, I go in there and get the job done the best that I can. And, you know, vocals are something I'm always trying to improve on, and I am improving on. But, you know, I don't know what he expected of me as a singer, but, you know, it's fine. Our idea wasn't to record a full record with him anyway, so I was happy with what we got out of it. When Matt came back with a mix for the song, we just didn't really care for it. It just wasn't really our style. It sounded a bit squashed, and it was really kind of modern sounding.
And then we decided to go with Josh for the mix. The mixes that we got back from Matt were really, really, really slick. A little too over-processed for what we were looking for. You know, it's just a style. It is what it is. No hate to anybody, but it just wasn't what we were looking for. So,
and then Josh Newell came in and mixed it, and you know, he made the whole song come together like he usually does. Josh is really good at what he does.
So we ended up just getting the tracks and sending them over to Josh Newell, who is a friend of ours who mixed the entire Darkness Remains album. And we trust his sounds, and we know that he knows what we want to sound like, and he ended up banging it out exactly the way that we wanted.
You know, Josh has always done us well, and so we decided to just throw it to him and see what he could do with it, and he fucking did it right, and it came out great.
I'm really happy with the way that he mixed this song,
and that's the version that you hear on the official release.
Yeah, so it was a good experience, but overall, you know, I think what we learned was that we can do it ourselves, and we can get the sounds that we need, and we know what we sound like. And I think a lot of times it's hard to tell other people, you know, to translate our ideas with somebody else. I think it gets lost in translation sometimes, where with us, we know what we're talking about when we talk to each other, and we understand where each other's coming from when we talk about sounds and stuff like that. So, you know, we wanted to go out and work with different producers and do different things. But I think what we realized from working with other people is we do it the way that we want to do it, and it works for us. Armand's really good at what he does, and you can bring somebody else in, but we know how we sound. And the idea to work with Matt was just to get a different face in the studio and see if, you know, we could find somebody that brings out the best in us.
Hey guys, Nesbitt here. If you would like to support Night Demon and this podcast, the best way to do it is to become a Night Demon subscriber. Not only will you be doing your part to support a true heavy metal band out there really living it, you'll also gain access to a ton of extras. Bonus audio content, a subscriber-only merch store with rare items from the band's archives. You can stream never-before-heard demos and unearth live concerts from the live vaults. Communicate with the other Night Demon diehards on an exclusive subscriber forum, and gain early access to all press releases, album pre-orders, new merchandise, and a ton more. And another thing that I think is pretty cool is Night Demon will be donating 10% of every subscription fee to the Metal Cares Foundation, which is a charitable fund the band started in 2014 to aid those in our metal community. So head over to nightdemon.net/subscriber and join us as we make heavy metal history together as one. And on a side note, I'll personally think you're a grade A badass.
Once we had the tracks, I wanted to put some more backing vocals on that. And we were playing a show up in San Francisco, and Lars Fredrickson from Rancid came out, and he really liked what we were doing. And
Lars Fredrickson, he saw us when we were with Death Angel playing the Death Angel Christmas a couple years ago, and kind of he became a fan of the band. And
we played the Death Angel Christmas extravaganza in San Francisco, and Lars Fredrickson was there with his kids and saw us play and loved the band, and his kids loved the band, so that made him also love the band. So at the end of the night, or when we were loading out, we were out in the back alley, and we said something to him. I think Jarvis went up to him and was like, hey man, right on, big fans. And he's like, oh fuck yeah, you guys are Night Demon, you guys just played and this and that, I loved you guys and this and that. And then before you know it, those two are fucking, they're just like geeking out, talking about, records. And actually the main thing they were talking about was this beat stick thing that we used to have in the van, which is it's a little stick with an extendable rod that comes out of it, in case somebody freaking, wants to, take your shit on the road, or I don't know, some kind of weapon thing. And he was just like all about it. He's like, oh yeah, man, I used to have one of those fucking things. I know exactly what you're talking about. And, Jarvis is frantically looking around the van trying to find this thing because he wanted to give it to him. But anyway, long story short, we ended up exchanging information, and he was a cool, really fucking cool, down-to-earth guy, and we ended up sending him a couple records when we got home, and he was just fucking over the moon about it and this and that. He just kept the relationship there, Jarvis I think he had something in the back of his head, about that for a long time.
We became friends, and long story short, I ended up getting a letter in the mail with a bunch of records from Matt Freeman, and he basically just told me that, hey, Lars told me about your band, and I'm fucking really into it, and here's what I'm doing. Maybe we can team up and do some stuff together.
Lars Fredrickson and Matt Freeman are from the band Rancid.
I got some hard times to bunks upon the subway. It's a long way to go to get to Leicester Square. A hard line, so one you gotta cross, the one you gotta cross to get you anywhere. My duck's on his way to
I already know that. Then I guess you've been living under a rock somewhere. Out of all the punk bands that kind of made it big and all that in the 90s, I think that they're like my favorite. I just always loved their songs and their style, It was like I'm a big fan of The Clash, and I think there's a lot of influence there from The Clash, and those kind of bands, like those like late 70s English punk bands. So I like their style. I like Lars's vocal style too,
I got none, I got no knife for nothing. I got no insight, I got no feelings. I got nothing that you want to stay away from here, yeah.
My name is Lars Fredrickson. I'm a guitar player and singer in the bands, Rancid, The Last Resort, The Old Firm Casuals, Lars Fredrickson and the Bastards, Oxley's Midnight Runners, Stomper 98. And what I've been doing lately is been doing a solo record, put out a solo EP on Pirates Press. Just recently, I'm going to be going out and doing some shows for my solo trip, and then also going over to the UK very soon to do a Last Resort tour. The first time I heard Night Demon, I think, was the Curse of the Damned record, if I'm not mistaken. So that was some years ago, and then I was able to check them out with when they played for Death Angel at one of some of the Christmas shows that they did here in San Francisco, where I live. My first impressions, I thought they were great. They're fun, old school metal stuff. They put a lot of energy out there, and very catchy and hooky, and just totally kind of fell in love with the band. Well, I got involved with the Night Demon guys because I got to know Jarvis a lot better, and he invited myself and Matt Freeman to come sing background vocals on a record, and had a really great time.
Hey, it's Matt Freeman, bass player for Rancid and Charger. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Just doing what I always seem to do, practicing a lot and, trying to play some shows with Charger in 22 and trying to always work on new music. Actually, the first time I heard Night Demon, my other band Charger was on a small, Southern California, Arizona run. And we were in the van, and Drew McGee, the guitarist, started playing it. And I'm like, what's this? And he's like, dude, it's this band Night Demon. They're freaking rad. And I believe that was the Darkness Remains record, was the first one we heard. And I just really liked it. It was great. The songwriting was really great. The musicianship was really great. And so that whole Southern California trip was all things Night Demon constantly. So it was pretty fun. Well, a little while later, I was talking to Lars Fredriksson of Rancid, and I just mentioned, I'm like, hey, have you heard of this band Night Demon? Drew played it for me. They're really good. I think you'd really like them. And he was like, oh, yeah, dude, I know all about them. They're freaking great. They're awesome. I met those guys at some show he went to, and he just loved them.
In December of 2019, I hit up Lars and said, hey, man, would you and Matt be down to do just some whoa, Misfits or Oi style vocals over this? And he was totally down.
And then sometime later, I get this text from him, and it's like, hey, I talked to the Night Demon guy. He wants us to sing background vocals. I said we'd do it. I'll let you know when, which is very typical Lars. And so then sometime after that, Charger and Old Firm Casuals, Lars's band, was playing a show together, and it just worked out that Jarvis came up, and we ended up doing it that afternoon before the show because we were all together.
So I ended up flying up to San Francisco, and we went to a studio that was run by Michael Rosen, who does all of the Rancid stuff. And Lars and Matt met me there. They hooked up their Sennheiser microphone, their favorite vocal mic, and we just went into the vocal booth and started, we just knocked out the song. I did some tracks. Matt and Lars each did some tracks, and then we did some tracks with the three of us together.
And we did it with Michael Rosen, who's done all kinds of recordings over the years for us.
Oh, Michael, the Blade. My brief history with Michael Rosen has not been brief at all. It's actually been a 30-year long history. I've done so many records with him over the years. 2 Rancid records, Lars Fredriksson and the Bastards record, a Stomper record, all the Old From Casuals recordings pretty much, even up to the new solo stuff, Oxy's Midnight Runners. I've pretty much recorded with Michael every time I've gone in, for anything that has to do with any of my projects.
Michael Rosen has been an engineer for forever. He came out of Fantasy Studios in Berkeley. He's worked on all kinds of huge records. He engineered on Let's Go, on Rancid's Out and Out Come the Wolves, and all the Old From Casual records, the Charger First record. I mean, we know the guy for over 25 years, so he really knows how he works. He's a super old school, experienced engineer.
So he's a great friend and, such a great engineer and a great producer and great mixer. And he's reliable, and he's got that old school, he can get those old school sounds. No one gets a guitar tone like Michael Rosen. And, just knowing him over the years and becoming so close with him. And, he's one of my better friends, but he's just a crazy talent and just a really cool person, great engineer.
I remember it going actually pretty quick. I mean, we sort of walked in, and me and Lars, background vocals are something we do together and something we do a lot of, like recording, like on Rancid and stuff. And actually, Old Firm Casuals and Charger, he comes in and helps. So we have a system. So we just sort of went in there and did what we do. And, you know, like I said, Michael Rosen really knows how we work. So we just went in and did it. It was a lot of fun. And I think it went pretty quick.
The great band, and it's just awesome to be part of, you know, their history and what they're doing. And I knew that we could sort of add something, and it was kind of fun, you know. And me and Freeman have sung together for the last 30 years, so it came really easy for us, and we just had a really good time, and it's very fun.
You know, it sounds massive when you listen to the finished product. I mean, there's between Luna and Matt and Lars and myself, there's a lot of vocals on there. I think Armand and Dusty may have even recorded some of those here as well, of them singing that. So it just sounds like an army of people, and when you put it all together, that's exactly what it is.
Just a really, really cool experience, and a really, really killer gesture on those guys' part to lend a hand and, you know, kind of put some punk credibility into Night Demon's song.
But it was just really cool to have those guys on the record. You know, I grew up, I mean, that Op Ivy record, when I was young, I mean, changed my life as far as wanting to be a bass player. I grew up a guitar player, but when I heard Matt's bass lines on that, I thought that was super amazing. And, you know, Lars he's I don't want to say he's a closet metalhead, because he's very open about his love for heavy metal, very open about it. But a lot of people wouldn't correlate that or wouldn't think that, because he's like an oi punk godfather. But those guys are just really cool. They're great people to be around, and we were really honored to have them. But it's always cool. We haven't had many guests before on Night Demon songs, and it's definitely something that I don't mind doing, and I like to bring in more. So it was really cool to have that. It's just kind of an added bonus. It's always great to be in a position. Sometimes, you know, when I look back on how the band started, or how just our musical careers in general have started in life, to be able to do some of the things we do these days, and to be able to rub shoulders with some guys that were influential to us when we grew up and started playing music, and some people that were even the reason we started playing, to be able to meet these guys and hang out with them, and they know your name, or you know, you see them on festivals and you run into each other a lot, or you just keep in contact and you support each other and become fans of each other's music and keep that going. I just think it's a really great thing. We're totally honored to have those guys on here, and I think it makes the track really unique.
So that's it for part 3 of Empire's Fall. In the subscriber section on nightdemon.net, we have tons of content aside from the demos of the song. We have the gallery of Lars and Matt in the studio with Jarvis singing the background vocals. We also have the whole Matt Hyde mix of Empire's Fall, if you want to check that out, the entire thing. I know you heard a clip, but it's cool to hear the whole thing, to hear the difference between that and the final version. I'm not sure if there's any of the limited opaque light blue vinyl 7-inch singles left. There was one left, I think, last week in the subscriber store, but we have a new item, the original 15.5 by 15 3/4 inches Empire's Fall cover pencil sketch by Andrei Buzagov. So this is the original. It's a one-of-a-kind piece of art, and it's the design that the album cover was based on. It's coming out of the Night Demon archives and is now for sale in the Night Demon subscriber store. So that's a one-of-a-kind rare item for sure. So be sure to check that out. Next week, we're going to dig into the cover art from the single, the artists behind it, and even more on Empire's Fall. So until next time, this is Nesbitt signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. Head over to nightdemon.net, click on the subscriber tab, and sign up to access exclusive weekly bonus content. If you would like to donate to support the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast, you can do so through PayPal at paypal.me/nightdemonmetal. Additionally, if you have not already done so, please subscribe, like, rate, and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The end. Hail Satan.
All hail, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. This is Dusty Squires chiming in to tell you about my brand new signature sticks from the London Drumstick Company. I've dreamt of having my very own drumsticks ever since I was a wee lad, and LDC made that a possibility for me. Founded in 2016 in London, England, the birthplace of heavy metal, the London Drumstick Company has trailblazed a path through the music industry and taken the drummer world by storm. When I met them for the first time, they knew their product was going to withstand the beatings of a Night Demon show. They took the time to work with me on getting everything just right. The balance and weight of my sticks are the same no matter what, and the durability is bar none the best I've ever had. I know my sticks will last through the set night after night. I'm truly honored to work with a company that caters to their players the way LDC does. Their innovation and attention to detail is what separates them from the rest of the stick makers out there. Their custom stick sleeves are unbelievable and really make the entire presentation complete. Wait until you see the design they came up with for me. It blew my mind and was a surprise to say the least. They have all kinds of amazing swag, including hoodies, t-shirts, drummer shorts, drum keys, stick bags, towels, face masks, practice pads, and much, much more. Even if you're not a drummer, you can be a part of Demon history and order my brand new signature sticks direct from their website. How cool is that? And to top it off, the London Drumstick Company are giving an exclusive offer to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. Go to londondrumsticks.co.uk and receive a 15% store-wide discount using promo code DEMONSTICKS. All capital letters, no spaces, Demon Sticks. DEMONSTICKS. I can't thank everyone there enough for the opportunity to be a part of their family and for them trusting me with their amazing products. See you metal maniacs on the road very soon. And yes, the wood chips will be flying.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. This is your comrade, the Crypt Keeper here, reporting dead from the sanctuary of the strange. Tonight's macabre myth is a fright-filled feature, one overflowing with monsters, madness, and magic.
Visit our website at monstersmadnessandmagic.com to stay up to date on all the dark dealings within the sanctuary of the strange. Enjoy the show.
Hey Metalheads, I'm Mark and I host the Metal Forge. Let me tell you about the show. The Metal Forge features the best underground metal from all over the world. We spend every week with a different artist with interviews, in-depth conversations, and most of all, the music. We also feature audience interactivity where you can submit your questions to the upcoming guests. New episodes are out every Friday at noon Eastern Time at metalforgeradio.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Okay, metalheads, you've been complaining that there has not been a channel
that plays all of the heavy metal videos from past, present, and future for years and years at this point. Well, that time is over. Heavy Metal Television is back. HeavyMetalTelevision.net is the website. Go there. You can see videos playing 24/7, 365, all the time. All the best from the old school, the new school, and everything in between. Check it out, HeavyMetalTelevision.net. It is where the metal is.